And I think it is a mistake that I see often perpetuated, that we just assume that all novice lifters are just these inattentive lab rats that are just gluttons for new shit. So I don't think that's entirely true. And I don't think that everyone should be subjected to this, militant, Mike Metzer, Dorian Yates style of just one progressive overload top set, and we just run that on repeat until you can't. So I think the biggest mistake is picking one of those camps and actually not having a structure. Like, a structure can be fluid if we plan the fluidity, right? Like, if we know someone is maybe a little bit more akin to novelty, we can do 12 different bicep curl variations that are still going to stimulate the bicep in a meaningful way, and we can have a program that, to their eye, has a novel aspect to it, has this anticipatory, what's going on, what's on the agenda for today, has a bit of learning, exposure, all that, without being, we're just going to run this workout on repeat. This is upper one, this is lower one, this is upper two, this is lower two. You're going to know, and you don't really need me. So I think that's the biggest thing is, and a lot of times it can be done after the fact. Go through a workout, document what was there, make changes on the fly. And from a coaching perspective, that's where I think a lot of your value is kind of interpreting preferences. And then the way I look at it is almost like an Amazon shopping cart. If I go through, we get into a workout, I like this, I didn't like that. Well, shoppers that purchased this also bought this, and this, right? So, people who like this, and I can go over my experience, will tend to like this, and this. It's a similar category of exercise. It's stimulus adjacent to the thing that you did. Probably requires far less of a learning curve, that you have this previous exposure, but it's new, right? And so there is that fine balance between, rigorous monotony in most cases for most training goals is going to be a straight line, and there's something to be said about adherence through results, but there's also adherence through enjoyment. But at the end of the day, most people are paying for results. And if you get the adherence through the enjoyment that gets the results, that's where I think everyone's set to win.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And what I've seen with clients is the results lag, right? You're not going to get results right away. So if you can get them enjoyment right away, if you can get them to feel a bit better or feel better about what they're doing, then that's the first thing that's going to give them that kind of dopamine bump where they're, all right, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this again. Even if it is a difficult process, it's a hard workout. There are the negatives associated with working out. It's like being sore, like waking up, like feeling stiff, things like that. But the novelty thing, I think, is so important. And the way that I structure this with clients is I always have an idea of all right, these are the big rocks that we're going to turn in this session. Like there's going to be probably some sort of compound, some sort of isolation, some sort of, working through isolated ranges of motion that they lack in, some aspect of stability in there, some aspect of core control. I have all these intentions, these general ideas of this is what the session is going to look like every single fucking time. And I think clients appreciate some form of familiarity with that. So it is like the structure of the session is very similar from time to time, but they fucking love it when you're like, all right, so we're going to do something a little bit different today. And in your mind, it's like, it's the same shit. Like you're doing a different variation of, say, a bicep curl, or instead of a dumbbell row, you're doing like a low cable row. And it gives them that kind of engagement of, oh, this is different. I better pay attention. I better make sure I'm doing this right. And this is going to be something that is novel to them when you're really just accomplishing the same intention, just with a different tool. And I find that to be something really valuable with whether it's new clients. New clients, there's going to be more that kind of everything is new to them. So it's all novel. But once you get into that kind of retention side of things, it's like, all right, we got to keep this person interested. That's something that I really lean into is like, all right, I know we've been doing this for a while. Let's switch it up today. This is a brand new thing that we haven't done before, but realistically it's the same thing and they're going to take to it really quickly, but it feels new to them just because it's, tactily different. Maybe it looks a little bit different visually. So I think that is a really good point. And then I guess as we start to look at this kind of from a trainer's perspective, like as you have these clients and they're brand new, I think the next thing that I would say is really important to get buy-in is starting to understand what their life looks like outside of the gym, right? It's, the fact that they're coming in, they're doing these sessions with you, they've made the commitment to make these changes. It's like, okay, we only have, like you said, 4 hours a week with this person. We can only do so much in those 4 hours. And even if we do everything perfect within those 4 hours, there's what, 164 hours a week? Is that somewhere in
It's
the ballpark?
168 total
168. All right. So there's 164 hours outside
left
of
in
that.
there.
Exactly. That they're left to their own devices, right? And you can have someone that, that can be a really big swing in the way that they navigate those other 164 hours in a week. So starting to not only focus on what's happening in session, but you can amplify results. So you can dangle that carrot and you could get that buy-in and that enjoyment through them starting to feel different in those hours if you start to hone in on the things that they're doing outside of that session. And like, I'll admit it, I don't do nutrition. And nutrition is one of the most important things for client results. Like, I focus on my own nutrition, yeah. But like, clients that I work with, and like, I'll talk to them about nutrition. I'll tell them very general things, like the general stuff you're gonna tell like your cousin's boyfriend at Thanksgiving dinner or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, like focus on protein intake, try and like be moderate with your carbs and fats, like, get enough fiber and like micronutrient, whatever. All this, like, yeah, I'll tell them that. But the people that I've gotten the best results with, I'm like, look, we need to focus on your nutrition. I'm going to set you up with this person to do your nutrition, right? And it's like separation of church and state here. It's like, you have accountability over here, you have accountability here. But it's kind of tangential to my point, is that like, if you start to focus in on nutrition, if you start to focus in on like what their work schedule, their stress levels throughout the day are like, what their sleep schedule is like, their activity outside of the gym. Like, if you have a client you're seeing 4 days a week and everything's going well in those 4 sessions, if you can get them to go for an hour walk in the days that they're not with you, their progress is going to be better than had they not done that. So there are these lifestyle factors that are going to be probably a bigger impact than what's going on inside of the gym with what they're doing with all those hours they're outside of the gym during the week. So that's like a big thing, is that these small changes on a day-to-day basis are going to make a really big difference over time. And the way that I look at that is like, what kind of trajectory are we setting? Like, if you're just on your computer 12 hours a day, like you don't move, you don't eat, you're super stressed out, like what kind of trajectory is that setting 6 months, 1 year down the line? Versus if we can get you to take breaks, go for a 15-minute walk every couple of hours. And if we can get you to be conscious of how much water you're drinking, how much protein you're eating, like that sets a pretty big deviation in trajectory over the course of 3, 6, 9 months, a year down the road. So that's one of the things that I think is really important for people to realize, as if people are asking you these questions, if you have clients that are like, all right, first of the year, got to get back to it, like what's happening outside the gym is more important, I'd say, than what's happening inside of the gym. What's happening inside of the gym is they're signaling to you that they want to make a change, but you can facilitate that change faster, or you can set a better trajectory for them if you're focusing on all of these things.
So I'm going to take like kind of an oblique and maybe even like a not deliberately juxtaposed stance, but like almost a complementary stance, because obviously habits, nutrition, lifestyle are going to be the compounding 164 of 168 hours that not only magnify the work done in the gym, but set the stage for better work to be done in the gym.
Yeah.
When I think of mistakes, and I think, in the realm of whether it's just a novice client or a novice lifter, like, someone who's maybe going in on unsupervised, but I think it's a lesson that I see a lot of trainers need to learn. And it's something that, I learned over my career. And it's one of the things that I emphasize when working with a client. And that's the skill of paying attention. Exercise offers you this very interesting, this very interesting window into people's minds. And like I would say it's on par Like when people have conversations with these types of words in them, usually it goes down the route of meditation and psychedelics. I fundamentally think that exercise, physical exercise, more particularly resistance training, but physical exercise is a broader category, everything from Pilates, running, any sort of motor skill execution under exertion, I think offers you a very similar opportunity as, you know, these two things are often touted as. Now, they're not the same. Like exercise isn't meditation, they're completely different, but they all have this element of focus to it, right? Like, you know, the trope, like the high story is, yeah, dude, I don't know, I was just staring at my hand for like 5 hours, right? My hand was all of a sudden so interesting. It's like, man, like you're really stoned. But there's an element of focus there, right? Like whether it's a decrease in neuronal activity, like most people think drugs are actually like an increase. Like you take, you know, mushrooms or something like that, and they think, oh man, it feels like my brain's on fire. It's like, no, the fire's going out. Right, it's actually like dampens a lot of the signal. It lowers neuronal activity, like the activity between the corpus callosum like slows right down between the two hemispheres of the brain. And so exercise, and it's something that not only is going to catalyze your ability to get better results and execute in a more precise, higher quality fashion in the moment, but it's actually like a meta skill that will exponentially improve your progress over time. And that's like calling attention to your client's attention while they're training, right? I think facilitated exercise that someone is paying for you to proctor. I mean, I set some pretty strict rules with my clients. And the first rule is no cell phones. No cell phones. In between sets, if we're not reviewing the last set or preparing for the last set, right? Like there's an intent with that hour there. Because one of the things that you'll notice, and like when I talk to coaches about this type of practice, and they put it into practice in their training, they realize really quickly like how incapable people are of actually paying attention. And like for me, and you know, we've been training for 15, 20 years, whatever it is. It's like you can't, especially at heavier weights, and like for you, especially with Olympic weightlifting, where the margin of error is pretty much zero, you can't be continually successful in weight training if you don't have a capacity to pay attention throughout the entirety of a session, right? It's like, you know, a lot of the initial training for me of like a new client, it's almost like training a dog, where it's like, you know, they're going to fatigue out in their ability to pay attention. Like, you know, the dog starts like shaking a lot or like scratching his balls or whatever. It's like, all right, we're done here. Like there's nothing left. It's this that goes. And it's really interesting because you'll watch coaches, they'll cue their clients over mistakes. But it's like, yeah, but why don't you cue the awareness over the entire thing first? So we have a baseline to make adjustments off of. So like, it's not enough just to cue what things are going wrong. You have to cue their awareness over the entirety of the movement as they perceive it, right? So like if I'm teaching someone like how to lunge, okay, I want you to like really focus every rep on when that heel strikes, try and make it be light. As you lower, I think of it like two movements. Like you're stepping forward, then you're sinking down, right? Like 70-30, I want some tension in the back heel. Like I'm calling their attention to things that they can pay attention to, right? Like I look at training a lot. Like remember back in like the mid 2000s, early 2000s, they came up with like 3D art, right? It's like this weird sort of abstract image. But if you at the right vantage, with the right prompt, you could see the spaceship. And it's like a lot of times we like curate this museum of 3D art for our clients, and they have no idea what they're looking at. And all it takes is you to go, hey, for this one, so like right in here, if you kind of squint and back up a few feet, you're going to see the apple dropping on Newton's head or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? But we just kind of walk around with our hands behind our back like some grandfather in Little Haiti, and we just go like, wow, yeah, this is a bunch of exercise. And it's like there is so much to experience within exercise from a sensory component that like you want to talk about long-term benefits of exercise off of every single measurable axis of health. Most importantly, I think like mental health. you get someone to pay attention throughout their entire session and see what happens. Not only will the session be executed to a higher standard, you talk about reps, talk about sets, talk about movement quality, talk about mechanical tension, or stimulus response, adaptation, talk about all that, sure. But you're actually building a separate skill of attention that is, for most people, really lacking, which is going to be the thing as they get stronger, right? As they get bigger or faster, that's going to be the waning resource at the end of the day. It's like, can you really tap into what this is going to be like under duress? It's not so much about your ability to handle duress. It's about your ability to know what to pay attention to, period. And building that capacity is something that starts day one. So like every exercise, I'm not just cueing, salient cues for visual criteria of execution of the movement. I'm cueing experience and feeling that I want them to go find. I want them to find that spaceship in every single exercise, right? Like in meditation, they'll have you like focus on the breath. Like, where do you feel it at the tip of the nose? Do you feel it in the stomach? Do you feel your chest rise? And it's different for every person, but it's like just calling their attention to there being something that can be attended to from a sensory experience standpoint is so unbelievably important in the short-term process of learning and the long-term process of learning and adherence. I like working out. Like this morning, I kind of woke up, didn't feel great. I'm like, I have like this optional arm day that I have float throughout. I'm like, you know what? Today's going to be an arm day. Because I just like going in and like feeling stuff because I know there's stuff to feel. And I think there's something to be said about instilling that as a part of your practice that really just comes down to paying the fuck attention. That allows, like middle of a set. Oh my God, I saw a trainer this morning talking to their client in the middle of the set. Nothing tells me you are not, like, unless you're trying to cue something. Like, yeah, so like, they got like it's a cockapoo. So it's like a cocker spaniel. I'm like, will you shut the fuck up? You shut the fuck up. Like, I'm trying to train. I don't give a fuck about your stupid dog. Like, oh my God, it was so frustrating. But I think that, like, embodying that, and I know some really good coaches. And a lot of what makes them good is that they pull the client into their world, right? They pull it into this immersive sensory experience, and then they get them to feel what they feel when you train. You can do that. You get people hooked on exercise with one hit. And then it becomes a bit, then all of the other stuff falls into place. But it's something where it's like we're so focused on small talk and like the relationship and building rapport. It's like, man, you know what really gets people on board? You getting really excited about the thing that they're there for, right? Like I have friends that are into shit that I don't give a fuck about until I see how much they give a fuck about it. I'm like, yo, yeah. What are we doing? We're stamp collecting? Yo, stamps rock, bro. I fucking love stamps because you love stamps. And it's like exercise, I think, is a lot like that. Like I can talk about a lunge or a squat or a press or a pull-up and like kind of you break down some of the minutia and everyone goes, I just thought it was like an up and down thing. And you're like, oh my God, dude, just wait to have you. And then they get a taste for it. And that's where I think like it's such a small thing, but it's everything. Teach your clients how to pay the fuck attention, which is hard for most coaches because you know why? Most coaches ain't paying the fuck attention either.
Yeah, that's true. I couldn't agree more. And that's like engaging them in the process is going to be the best way to get results for them. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but to me, it's just the way that you're framing the questions that you ask the client. Because like everyone has a client do a set and they like look at it, maybe they'll give them some cues, whatever. I'll be like, all right, yeah, how'd that feel? You want to stay there? You want to go up? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So for me, it's the small change between asking them, how did that feel versus what did you feel? Right? Because that sets the stage of they have to now internalize it. They have to pay attention as they're going through their set so that they can now verbalize to you what they're feeling, where they're feeling it, how they're feeling it. And then what that does as a trainer, it sets you on the same stage in terms of dialogue around the movement. Like, I have this pain in my right knee when we do this lunge, but like I feel like my hips are really tight. And then you start to dig into it, like, oh, okay. So like what does the pain feel like? Like, oh, I don't know. It's like this kind of snapping when I bend my knee. I'm like, oh, all right. Like, does it, go away if we start to move through this range of motion, or if we roll out your TFL, like all this stuff. And it kind of, it allows you to get into their body for a second, right? Like it allows you to understand and interpret the sensations that they don't have any reps interpreting. So these are all new for them, and everything that doesn't feel good is pain. And it could mean that they're using their quads for the first time. It could mean that like their TFL and their glute med is tight and they have their IT band snapping. It could mean that, you know, they don't understand how to brace their core, so they feel like they're falling over. They have no connection to foot pressure. But that gives you the opportunity that, because you as a diligent trainer should be paying attention, but now you can interpret what they're feeling, as opposed to them saying, you know, you ask them after the set, how'd that feel? Like, I don't, it feels a little bit weird. Like, okay, we'll just go lighter next set. Like, no, let's not fucking do that. Let's ask them what they're feeling specifically. Let's get an understanding, and then let's overlay that with our understanding of what's actually going on.